Viene directamente desde Estados Unidos, desde Nueva York. I was in New York like 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
I noticed you were covering the trial.
Yeah, a big and historical trial, right? Well, let's talk about what you do. First, you have worked in many different areas, right? Healthcare, government, Congress, even in entertainment, right? Yes. So how have this experience shaped the way you look healthcare today?
Well, I mean, they're all inextricably linked because technology is the common link. Mm-hmm. So my first job was working in the state when I ran all the healthcare services, but we had no technology at all. I mean, we had typewriters and carbon paper, and there was really nothing that we could call technology back then, maybe the Xerox machine. When I went to work for the Congress, we went to visit one of our constituents. His name was Charles Wang, and he had computer associates. And one of the products that he created was a Wang word processor. Now, a word processor was a computer. It looks like a computer, but all it did was write. And I said, I have to get these to my office. We have to be the first to have them. And we did. But what was interesting, all the people in the office, they didn't want to give up their typewriters. You know, even though this was the future, they wanted to hold on to the old technology. But we got them, and we used to have an old mainframe, and we got these word processors to communicate with the mainframe. And so I realized that technology could really change the way we communicate, how we relate to each other. And my mentor at the time was Al Gore, who was very early on the internet, and I became very focused on the internet. So when I left the Congress, I was very involved with the entertainment industry. And this was just the very beginning of the internet. And kids were stealing music on Napster and Kazaa. And I realized, and I was also doing it, that this is a great way to get the music. And I made a recommendation to the Warner Music Group in 1995. And you can interrupt me if I'm talking too far along. Should I stop?
No, that's pretty good. No problem. But Jeffrey, you were talking about the importance, the key role that technology can play, right? For example, in healthcare, in entertainment, in everything. Well, today we're looking at AI revolution, and many people are thinking, oh, maybe many people is afraid that this technology can replace them, right? So in that time, you were talking about internet in the 90s.
Right.
Did you see the same kind of fear back then?
No, because in the 90s, like the vision for what you could do on the internet was way ahead of the technology. So we had all these companies that were trying to do TV programming on news program, and there was so much money pouring into these companies. I was with Chase Capital Partners at this time, and we were investing hundreds of millions of dollars. And then on one day, the whole market crashed. They said it was a bubble and it was over. But the companies might have failed, but the underlying technology continued to evolve. And it evolved into cloud computing, and artificial intelligence has been around a really long time. The first model was made in 1940 by a gentleman by the name of Pratt, and he was laughed at. And people said, no, this is never the way it's going to be, and the progress stopped. So we've had AI in healthcare for a really long time, but the AI was always intermediated by engineers. So I would say, we want to do this, and they would have to write a program. And there were lots of companies that were started by founders that wanted to solve specific problems. I was with a company called Oscar, and the founder of Oscar, it's an insurance company. The founder had trouble figuring out his insurance. And then another company was called Cedar, and he couldn't figure out how to pay his bills. So we had all these point solutions. But their world was rocked when large language models came out. And the amazing thing about neural networks, which large language models are built on, is that nobody even knows how they work. First of all, they are trained on data, but they have no data in them. They shouldn't even be called data centers. They're brain centers, because when you engage with an LLM, it's engaging back with you in real time. It's not looking for files. So this is revolutionary, and I didn't see it coming. But the interesting thing is, either the Sam Altman or Mustafa Suleyman, they never anticipated it would speak every single language. And the big issue in AI right now in healthcare is the issue of alignment. How do you align the AI with human values? And there was a great book that was written before LLMs by Christensen called The Alignment Problem. But whose values are you going to align it with?
Yeah.
I mean, whose? Like China's,
Yeah. What culture, for example?
Right. But on the other hand, this is, in healthcare, you'll hear, it makes mistakes, right? Well, humans make mistakes. The third leading cause of death in the United States is medical error. Now, it's got to do better than that, right? So there was a great study that was done in the New England Journal of Medicine. They had 3 cohorts, and they created a scenario where they had to do a diagnosis. And the first group were just physicians. They got the right diagnosis 74% of the time. The second group were physicians who had the use of AI, but they preferred their diagnosis over the AI, so they only got it right 76% of the time. The AI got the diagnosis right 94% of the time. Now, that's not to say that physicians are going to be replaced by AI in the near future. I mean, there's a company called AI Doc that does federal, very good algorithms that are all approved by the FDA in our country. And he said doctors who use AI will replace doctors who don't. I don't know where you want to go with this, but I could just keep talking.
Yeah, we can keep going forward, but I need to go back a little bit in time, right? To review your history. I was reading about you. You had all these roles. You played different roles. And in all of them, technology seemed to be a constant. Even
Yes.
if this sounds redundant, can you tell us, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about why do you think technology has been so central, so key in your career?
Well, actually, I was thinking about a book this morning. I know I'm going to mess up the pronunciation of this fellow's name, but it's called How Information Grows. It was written by, and I didn't realize until today, it was written by a Chilean.
Yeah?
Yes.
Who's the author?
Hidalgo. He's a physicist.
Hidalgo.
Yeah.
César Hidalgo.
Yeah, César Hidalgo.
Oh, yes, he's very well known here. I mean, todos lo conocemos. César Hidalgo, científico de datos chileno que ha trabajado en Estados Unidos. He's been working in the United States. Yeah.
This man is brilliant, and he said something in this book, like, people say we have to stop AI, and we can't stop AI. We are wired since the beginning of creation to create technology, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. And it's in our bones, it's in our genes, and we will not, who's going to stop making AI? So look, I'm not an evangelist. I think it could be very dangerous in the future, but we can't stop it. So at least we have to get the benefits out of it. And in healthcare, it's a game changer. Like, there are algorithms that, I worked on sepsis for many years. And sepsis is a blood infection where you die if you don't get to it quickly enough. But now they have algorithms that do predictive analytics and predict who's going to get septic before they get septic. They have EKGs now that can predict who's going to have a heart attack. It would be irresponsible not to use this technology. And what I've learned about the healthcare system in this country, you have a lot of, you have a great healthcare system. I love the way it's modeled, and you have a great public system, and you have a private system. But the hospitals are not operating at their full efficiency, and they're run by government who doesn't necessarily do a good job, the public hospitals. And the potential for using AI to improve the operations of hospitals is unbelievable. So I don't know how we don't embrace this technology. But the one thing I know, with my days in the entertainment industry, The record companies, I wrote a report for a big studio in 1997 that said streaming is going to be the final delivery platform to the consumer and to the movie theater. And they go, no, people are always going to want to have a DVD. They're going to want to own it. They want to hold it. And I said, we'll see, you know. So they actually laughed because they said that the technology will never be there. In those days, we had TiVo in our homes, so we had to download on the front end. And now you know you can download anything. You go to the next place, and it's right where you left off. So this technology evolves. And you know, look at a company like Kodak, which you probably all know Kodak. It was the biggest photography company in the world, and they lost it. They never made the transition to being digital. And Blockbuster was a big chain that rented out DVDs, and Netflix replaced them. So technology is indifferent to whether industries survive. They continue to emerge, and if you don't move with them, they will obliterate you. They're indifferent to your survival. But this is a whole new thing now with LLMs.
Jeffrey, just to be totally clear, these models, this algorithm that you were talking about, for example, the one that can predict infections, right, sepsis, these are real examples today that they are being used currently today in hospitals, or they are like experimental or prototypes?
No. So there's a company called Palantir, which everybody has heard of, but they're doing predictive analytics on sepsis. They're also doing predictive analytics on staffing. They can predict when a floor would need a nurse. So they're also doing, for hospitals, they're doing command centers. You know, a lot of hospitals have a lot of different branches and a lot of different services, and they have a lot of different data and so what Palantir does is they create an ontology, a digital twin of that institution, and they are able to really address all these different processes. So technology, if you use it for the right thing, it could be the greatest thing in the world. And like yesterday, I heard the President Bork talk about how AI has reduced the number of car thefts in this country. Well, that's a good use of AI. The Chinese might use it for a different purpose. You know, so you know, it's the use case and the user of the AI who is not the technology itself. So I think it's an exciting time.
Just for you to know, here in Chile we have a very big companies developing also models. We have the Universidad de Chile, the Chilean University, or University of Chile. They develop, for example, a model that is using like AI, and they can predict, for example, human behavior in terms of who is going to miss the next doctor appointment, for example. That is very, very good, I mean, in efficiency, in the using of, for example, this kind of human resources, you know?
I mean, you guys have great engineering talent down here. There's a very, you know, as you say, there's a very prolific technology community, and I think Chile should be proud of it. You should be proud of your healthcare system, too. I mean, it's a really great system, and I've only been here for 3 days, but I have such a great feel for the people here, and I'm excited for the future of Chile.
Okay, you were able to see many major technology shifts early on, right? Like the impact of streaming, you were talking about that, for example, in the 90s. How important is today to be able to anticipate these trends, and what helped you to do that?
Well, I think that I'm lucky. I'm gifted in the sense that I've always had an eye for technology. I see patterns and...
Everywhere?
Yeah, right now, even on the screens, I see patterns.
Yeah.
No, but it's always come second nature for me. And then I've had to work really hard to learn the underlying, how it works. Because that doesn't come natural. But I forgot the question.
No, I was talking about anticipate some trends. I mean, how did you do that? And can we do that right now? Because, you know, the trends are like going so fast right now. It's difficult to be like on top of that. Well,
right now AI is being used to do like remote monitoring for diseases. So people have, so there's no end to it. And I said before, to make doctors feel better, they'll be doing medicine, and they'll probably be doing radiology is something that really does well. And not to you. Look, you're first of all everyone in this room is an expert on technology and healthcare. Why are you an expert in healthcare?
Why?
You have families. You go to the doctor. You have waiting time. You see what goes on inside the hospital. You got to be vigilant. You have to. Because you're patients, and you use technology in every single part of your lives, wall-to-wall technology. And the reason they call us patients in healthcare is that we have to wait so much. Consumers are going to take the lead first. I'm sure all of you are using ChatGPT to look at your lab results, and it's very patient. It will take a lot of time to explain things to you. Now, I like to talk to it. Do you ever talk to it?
Yeah,
it's a totally different experience, right?
I use it with Gemini and with ChatGPT 5.3.
So even to do this speech, I said, you are the interviewer.
Yeah.
You know what I want to say, so let's do some practice interviews.
You use it every day, like on daily basis? Or?
I use it all the time, and I talk to it all the time. And when I'm reading books that I don't understand, I ask them, what does this mean?
Yeah.
I'm very interested in how neural networks work, and I'm just, it's so intriguing that nobody knows how they work.
Yeah, I try to practice my English like every day on the car when I'm driving.
And by the way, the car is a lot safer when it's driven by AI. People get all hysterical if there's a car accident. They go, oh my God, it was AI. It doesn't ever drive drunk. It never goes into the wrong lane when someone's in your blind spot. And so we have to learn to harness the power of these technologies. Where is it going in the future? You see robotics, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have that behind. But that was I love last year, the logo was a robot in the poise of Rodin's Thinker. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if there's a writer called Eliezer Yudkowsky. Now, he really believes that there's something going on inside the neural network, and we don't know what it is. And others like Mustafa Soliman, who he runs AI I think at Google now, and none of these individuals really know how it works. And they know how to make it stronger. They now have something called parameters, which we would call, synapses in our brain. And they have trillions of these parameters, and they're connected in so many ways. So that's why I said it's a misnomer to call it a data center. And sometimes I think, we're building the data centers to create AI. Maybe the AI is causing us to create the data centers so we can get smarter. What's the cause and effect? I mean, that's a little crazy thought, right?
I'm going back to healthcare, but okay. before that, just because you mentioned it, I want to talk a little bit about autonomous cars, because I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago, I went to San Francisco. I always go to United States for technology, and I ride one of these cars, autonomous cars. I think it was Cruise, and then Waymo, two companies that are working there. And I did this ride with a Chilean engineer that is working on NASA, on jet propulsion in the jet propulsion laboratory. And we were talking about this, the autonomous cars. And he told me, I think that 10 more years, 20 years from now, it's going to be like normal. And people will look back and they will say, how we were able to drive this, and so many people were dead in the streets. That is like the past, we evolve. What do you think about that?
I think I agree with that. And I drove a Tesla for 7 years.
I do also.
And, I let it drive. It did a lot better job than I did.
And you used the full self-autonomous?
I didn't trust it on getting off the highways and stuff. I found it got a little confused. Mm-hmm. But when you're on the straightaway or you're changing lanes, I use it for all of that. And I now have another electric car that has all those features, and I do use it. It's safer than I am. But so going back to healthcare, right now there are third world countries where they don't have surgeons that can do very specialized surgery. Now they could do it remotely from academic medical centers like Northwell in New York is very good at this. And they do very sophisticated surgery using robots. And they're going to produce 1 billion robots over the next decade at least. And there are 3 big companies that are competing for it. And but I think that this is the march of history, and you can't change it. It is our history. We might be developing into this would be the more optimistic, where we'll be able to think in the cloud, and that's starting with Neuralink, and there are technologies that imagine being able to think with that kind of breadth of information. But it's possible that we are evolving into a digital life form, which the first time I said that was 1983 with a fellow by the name of C.N. Yang, who was that Nobel laureate physicist at Stony Brook. And he goes, nah, it's never going to happen.
Well, just for you to know, we have a lot of robotic surgeons operating right now. I mean, in Chile, we have many from United States, from China, and also some Chilean-made robot for surgery in Chile and also in Silicon Valley. Just for you to know. Solo les digo, tenemos en Chile varios robots que ya están operando, los conocen, y hay uno también chileno que se está desarrollando en Silicon Valley, que está trabajando ya en Chile, que se llama Robot Mars, que es nuestro, es chileno, para que también lo puedan buscar porque es espectacular. Having said that, I'm sorry, what's
No worries.
Yeah.
I wish I spoke Spanish. I unfortunately took French.
You do?
No, I said I wish I did.
A little bit maybe, no? Nothing?
Just poquito.
Un poquito. Siempre, el poquito siempre se lo saben, impresionante. Well, let's go back again. In the 90s, when hospitals were still using paper records, you talk about that.
Well, that's terrible.
Yeah, terrible. You help them, you guide them to move to electronic medical records. So, what was the main challenge back then, and what advice did you give?
The main challenge with technology is always people are more comfortable with what they have. They don't want to make the change.
Yeah.
Doctors didn't want to go into EMRs. And it was very inconvenient at first, but now it's becoming much more convenient. There are companies, Regard Health, and I work with like 50 startups over the years. Regard Health, they had a point solution where they had algorithms that went into the charts, and they served up the first draft of notes to the physician, which the physicians edited. When LLMs came around, it blew them out of the water. All these companies were blown. They had to really hustle to figure out how to integrate LLMs into their model. And the thing about LLMs is you really have to be knowledgeable when you tell it what to do. You know, the more specific you are, and let's say you're creating an agent that's going to do something, you have to tell it what it's supposed to do, what its context is, what its task is going to be, what its inputs are going to be, and the more, and it's actually very much structured like writing software. And so now you're prompt engineers, but their knowledge of writing software is very supportive of them writing the right types of prompts. And there's a lot of great podcasts on writing the right kinds of prompts. Because if you put one line in, you'll get back, the model wants to please you so much, it will just pull anything it can find. So you really have to limit it. But I think I saw a company that it was from Japan, and they were showing how for robotic surgery they were coloring different tissues different colors. And I said, you guys are not doing this to make it easy. You want to create robots that can actually do the surgery. And they all started smiling because they knew it was very transparent to me what they were doing. But I do think that in the future, AI will be doing a lot of things in our society. And there's a really good book by Nick Bostrom. He wrote Deep Utopia. And he talks about what do human beings do in a post-human society where machines do everything. Robots are going to blow our minds over the next 5-10 years. And they're going to be doing so much. Right now, a lot of the robot demonstrations you see, like Boston Dynamics, that's all phony. You know, it's not real in the sense that it's being controlled by human beings.
Yes.
And, but all that's going to happen. Last year, you had that logo with the thinker, and these models will think, and they think now. And we're trying to make them think in a different way. One of the things I worry about, everybody's so focused on LLMs, the models that can talk to us, that they're not focusing on what's going on beneath, in the level of the neural network. And that's where it might be, there's something called recursive self-improvement. And this is when we're really screwed. It's the day the model learns to think for itself. And the person that wrote the book on AI, Russell Stewart, he thinks that we have until 2030 to figure this out. So look, I'm not a total advocate, but I think we have to learn how to use it to do good, and that's what my premise is.
Jeffrey Sachs, thank you so much for being here in Congreso Futuro 2026. Por favor, un aplauso para Jeffrey Sachs, que estuvo con nosotros. Jeffrey, real pleasure
I enjoyed
to meet you.
When you come to New York, we should.
Yeah, no, I will go.
My best friend is Christopher Cómo.
Yeah.
You know Chris?
Yeah.
Right?
Please.
He's my best friend.
Maybe we can get together the next time.
Yeah.
Can we?
I'm godfather to his children.
Beautiful. Thank you.